Namaste everyone. I wanted to do an astrology video. So I haven't talked about astrology for a little while. I've been doing some home projects and just working on that. So I wanted to get back into talking about what's going on. We have 4 retrogrades happening all at once, so it's a pretty intense time, and just wanted to touch base and talk about what to expect and how to either ground or let yourself flow during this transitional time. So let's start by talking about what a retrograde actually is. So when the planets appear to be moving backwards in a timeline versus forward, then that's a retrograde period. So during this retrograde period, we usually use the words that begin with RE: revise, revisit, reform. So this is a time to reassess, reevaluate. So when we're talking about any kind of words that are associated with a particular planet, those strong words, just put RE in front of them and it'll give you better guidance on how to handle the transition through the retrograde. For this video, I'll be using the help of a deck, astrology reading cards, and these is just a very simple deck, but I like the visuals that each card has for the planets and the houses. So we're going to start with the first retrograde planet. Visually will just help to hopefully give you an idea of what Pluto is about. There's a feeling that's associated with the card, and at the bottom there's a little mantra, if you will: your ability to transform and take a big leap forward and rebirth. So that's very much what Pluto is about. Planet or no planet, Pluto is very important in astrology. It's known to be carrying a heavy density or weight with its lessons. So some of those lessons are regeneration, rebirth, as the card said, looking at things from a new perspective, transformation, and it's also associated with Shiva and destruction. So it's a good time in a retrograde to really think about how do we re-transform ourselves. There's an old story of becoming the butterfly in the cocoon. So when we are that butterfly, it's a time of going into oneself, possibly meditative for us human species, and going into that transformation process. If you don't go through this churning process, then how are you going to turn into a butterfly at the end? So as you're thinking about Pluto moving through this retrograde, which is going to be from April 25th through October 4th. So it's a little bit of time there to really get into that transformation period. Now, will the whole time be dark and cocoony? Absolutely not. There's definitely a lot of lightness that's coming through the summer months, but if you have those moments that pop up, then maybe just having a little assessment and saying, oh, okay, I remember, this thing is happening with astrology and Pluto, and maybe this dark moment is really trying to teach me something. Is there something that I can transform about my idea, about the way that I live my life, into becoming more like a butterfly? The next planet that's in retrograde is Saturn. The card for Saturn shows a man reading. So it tells you right there, it's a little bit of wisdom, discipline, responsibility, structure. There could be rules. The saying for this card is the part of you that accepts the challenge to gain wisdom. And that's definitely going to come up during this retrograde. Learning your lessons is a big part of moving forward in any kind of spiritual journey. And we often hear the word karma. Well, karma is really associated with Saturn. Saturn in Hindu astrology was known to be a very dark force that was very, very vicious. And so you wanted to appease Saturn so that people would do Saturn mantras. So if you're open to something of that idea, it's definitely worth looking into. Your appeasement of Saturn so that things go lightly, because Saturn was known as a very dark figure, but very, very strong and had the ability to create much havoc. So going into retrograde, maybe that's what we can look at, is where have we created our own havoc? Where do we feel that things are still coming to us from a karmic perspective? Maybe it's a time to make amends, going into really releasing things of the past, going through your own atonement and saying, these are the things, even if it's admitting just to yourself, these are the things that have gotten me pulled into certain darker lessons, and now's the time that I want to revisit that, or maybe it'll come up on its own, and that's more likely the case. And when these things come up, you can just use your discernment to realize that it could be part of this transit. Also associated with Saturn retrograde will be new laws and new policies going into effect in the collective. So you're going to definitely see that. But a positive aspect that can come out of this retrograde is really authentic friendships. You're going to really begin to see who you align with and who you don't. And there's going to be a lesson in boundaries that you're not going to want to allow those lessons. And the more that you clear up karma, and that could be your own karma, but sometimes it's karmic relationships. So as you work on reducing or clearing up those karmic relationships, you're going to align yourself more to the people that are meant to be in your life. And that's going to be a stronger foundation for those relationships moving forward. Another positive way to handle the Saturn retrograde is to really just enjoy yourself. Don't take life so seriously. Get out there and have fun. If you're making these new connections and things are aligning, then all can't be bad. So you really want to find the positive. You want to get out and enjoy yourself. You want to relax. You want to have fun. Just find those moments. Not everything has to be serious all the time. The Saturn in retrograde will be from April 29th to September 18th. So again, you have plenty of time to transition and transform. The third planet that's going into retrograde happened on May 13th, and that is Venus. Venus is a planet associated with love, relationships, beauty, luxury, and Venus right now is moving through Taurus, which is its home planet. Retrogrades with Venus can be all about the makeup or breakup. It's a lot of love and hate going on. But if you stay focused on that lesson that's coming with these other retrogrades that are already going on, you can pull and see how now they can all start to go together. These karmic relationships will be really clearing for this Venus retrograde as well. So you just focus on the positive aspects. It might be a good time to really think about conscious coupling or conscious uncoupling and how that is possible. The mantra that's associated with this card is the part of you that desires beauty, success, indulgence, and valuables. And when I say valuables, I hear reevaluate. So there are some relationships that probably need to be reevaluated, not just with people, but maybe with things, money, possessions, anything materialistic is also associated with Venus, but that love and relationship is as well. So it's going to be on many different levels. The fourth planet that's going to be moving through retrograde is Jupiter. Well, Jupiter is going into retrograde on May 14th, which is today, when I'm recording this video anyway. It's going to stay in retrograde until September 12th. The card that's associated with Jupiter, you can sense the freedom here, taking chances. When we take chances, they're really evolving our wisdom and our intellect. There's a sense of growth and expansion, taking chances moving forward. The mantra of the card says your confidence, courage, self-belief, and luck. And that's a lot of what we're going to see in this retrograde. It's a time to really revise. It's saying, okay, here's the things that we have left undone, unsaid. What are we not working on? What classes have we started that we haven't finished that might be piling up in our emails or courses? What books have we started reading but we haven't finished? What projects in our home? What work projects? We need to tie up the loose ends through this transition. And that's going to be really important to start doing early in the retrograde, because when things start to get lighter, we don't want to be held down by those potential projects that we have put off, and now we feel like we're under pressure in a time where we should be feeling light later midsummer. Another part of this Jupiter retrograde, unfortunately, could be civil unrest. We might be able to see that expansion and contraction in the collective. So some people are going to really be pushing for change, and they're going to say, oh, I've figured it out. I've thought about this. And then you're going to have another side of the people saying, I've thought about this. This isn't the way it goes. So watching for that polarizing or duality mindset, really trying to just be focused on yourself and being centered with your own practice and your own ideas and thoughts, and not being swept away, really focusing on what you can do tangibly, the things that you can get done in your own mind and beliefs. Now that wraps up May, and then we move into June. And I'm just going to touch on June briefly. We do have one retrograde coming in June, and I guarantee you know what I'm going to say. Mercury. We all have heard about Mercury retrograde. But Mercury retrograde doesn't just mean things are going to go crazy. It actually has a lot of benefits. It's a time where we're really going to begin discussing and communicating, where we're going to start being with people. There's actually going to be, with the Jupiter, a little bit of outside travel. I think we're going to be able to get out of the house a little bit more. Maybe those groups of 10 or less are going to start to be able to get together through the summer. And so there's going to be a lot of discussion. We're all going to have lots to talk about with our ideas and the things that we've been doing and what's going on and our beliefs. And, we're going to be aligning with the right people. So it's really going to be a joyful and light time. So the card has a mantra for Mercury, and that's how you think, communicate, write, talk, and travel. So that just sums that up. In June, when things begin to lighten up, it's because we're going to have these planets kind of getting solid in their retrograde. Some of them are going to be going through the summer, like we said. But there's some heavy hitters. Jupiter, Uranus, Pluto are all going to be moving into Earth signs. And so even though they're moving backwards and there's still some lessons and restructuring, there's going to be a very grounded feeling on one hand. Like, okay, I'm okay with, this unsettled feeling. I'm okay being in this cocoon. The full moon is coming on the 5th of the month, and it's going to bring with it a lunar eclipse. So we're really going to be able to solidify how we want to move forward for the month of June at that time. The lunar eclipse often brings in emotions, and June might provide a lot of emotion for you, and it could be a great release. It's going to be a time when you're connecting and sharing and talking and maybe traveling and getting out. There's going to be an overwhelming sense of relief in one hand, and just an overall acceptance of what all's been going on. And, sometimes it's after the fact that the gravity hits you. It's kind of going to be in that mind frame, that grounding energy. It's going to be grounding. It's going to be emotional, but through that's going to come a lightness. So if you do feel those emotions coming to you through the month of June, just really sit with it and acknowledge, what am I actually feeling? You're going to have the opportunity to express that with someone close to you, and be okay with talking about your feelings, crying in front of someone else, and you're going to get a great reward of connection and release and feeling that light and airy feeling. And finally, you're going to feel that butterfly be able to start to come out of the cocoon and blossom, spread its wings, and enjoy the midsummer. Thank you for watching. If you would like to book your own session with me, we can do astrology, or we can pull astrology into any kind of intuitive, meditative, or hypnotherapy session, and just finding that blend of what works for you to help you to find your easeful path forward. Check out my other videos and subscribe below. The Pluto retrograde will be from April 25th through October 4th. Pluto is associated with rebirth, new perspectives, transformations, and Shiva. The Saturn retrograde will be from April 29th through September 18th. The Saturn retrograde will be associated with karmic lessons, true friendships, doing shadow work, discipline, authority, finding structure, and how we play with the rules. The Venus retrograde will be from May 13th through June 25th. Venus is associated with love, luxury, relationships, travel, and material aspects. The Jupiter retrograde will be from May 14th to September 12th. Jupiter is associated with wisdom, intellect, revision, growth, and changes. The Mercury retrograde will begin June 18th and go through July 12th. It's associated with new ideas, communications, solutions, and dialogue.